Hey Jay, what up?
Yo, man, where you been at, man? I've been looking for you for like 4 days, man. You haven't been online and nothing.
Man, I was doing something different, man. I was hiking and stuff.
Hiking?
I was doing all types of different stuff, eating different foods. So what happened was, I met this girl at Timmy Hortons. She had a bubble. I'm talking about a triple, a double. She steaming like this hot coffee. I'm about to guzzle. She go down like an iced coffee. In the summer, yeah, I met this girl at Timmy Hortons. She had a bubble. I'm talking about a triple, a double.
Welcome to Too Much Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we treat a book like an 8-course meal. Take each course, savor it, think about it, evaluate the different textures, the different flavors, discuss them, appreciate them over a nice glass of wine, and then at the end, come to some random conclusions and jokes. I am Chad Post, joined as from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox. How you doing, Brian?
Good. I'm just here to be a palate cleanser.
Oh yeah, need a palate cleanser. I don't know, man. You were the one who started this in motion. I'm just generating.
We need an amuse bouche. What shall we do for our? It's 12 o'clock. I'll have a little rye whiskey or something.
Oh, nice, lucky man. So we are covering.
You're on campus today, aren't you?
Yeah. For anyone who's watching, this is campus. Is an empty fucking office. There's another one that's completely empty. All the offices are empty, except for like a giant amount of boxes in the middle of one room, since everything's packed up as it needed to be, but 0 people moved anything as they were supposed to do. So I'm still working here for the moment, but like it's depressing and weird. But yeah, I have to teach every day of the week except for Friday. So I'm here basically all the time.
Oh, lovely. What are you teaching?
The intro to publishing class is on Mondays and Wednesdays, and world literature and translation is Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I just taught that and had them do this experiment where they translate a few pages from this book called The Adventures of Inspector Caballot that's written in Europanto, a non-existent language. I have them translate it into English and then point out how they managed to leave out all of the tone, the humor, the style, the grace of the original by trying to make everything fit English and mean something and what the meaning is. But what's funny is as they're working on this project, I Googled Inspector Caballot to see what year it was written. And the first thing that comes up is an article I wrote that I totally forgot about Tim Park's style and this exact exercise. And it had like, here are the 4 things that happen every class. All 4 of them happened exactly the same way with this one. It's like, Jesus, people are predictable. So sometimes I'm like my own individual gloat over here, just like processing people's aptitudes, figuring shit out.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting onto the home stretch here, right?
Woo! Are we? All the pieces are coming together. Every thread is coming. Just if I didn't say it at the beginning, we're talking about Same Bed, Different Dreams by Ed Park. We're going from pages 383 to 450. It's penultimate episode. We're almost there. And yeah, all the threads are coming together. All of them.
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole on this one, kind of like curious, because there's a lot of pop culture references that happen in this one. We'll get to it at some point, but I had a fun time researching some of these old stars from the 50s and the 60s and looking at their TV appearances, and I wasted a lot of time doing air quotes research.
I did a little bit too. There's one specific one that I was like getting way too into was if the Moonies use the term divine precepts, which they do not, but they do use the term divine principle, which is similar and is kind of their core thing. But we'll get to that as well. I don't know. We have 2 real sections here. The first one is the sins, which is the Soon Sheen section, set in October. It's UBU. And then the second one is the first half of the final dream, the 5th dream, supposedly from Echo, but we'll talk about that too. And we go through the first half of it essentially for this week, the first 50 entries. So as we preface this, I'm gonna make a really horrible segue because this seems great. I'm good at horrible segues, but the beginning of this starts with Soon going into the what do they call it, Little Eden, where there's like he's at Astros at Gloat's headquarters, goes into Little Eden, the one little room, one spot in the world's map there's no technology that works there. It's unmapped. It's nothing. And he has a key to it, and he gave a key to Loa Deng, who is out there. It's like his respite place. But when he goes out, she's out there doing yoga and startles her. And she's like, come on, man, whatever. And he thinks like, I gave you this key. This is my space. My segue is that I had mentioned this before, but now it's officially out there, is that former co-host Katie Whittemore has a retreat, a yoga and creative translation retreat that she's helping run in Ireland in March. And all the information is out there. So 2 things, yoga and creativity. I'm trying to tie that together. Also, I think it's funny that this to me, it's like, I think of the scene, I think of it like marriage, where you have your nice, calm area, and then your spouse comes in and all of a sudden they're doing yoga, there's shits everywhere, your little man silent space is gone. There's no room for silence if you're in a partnership.
It's called sharing your life with someone, okay? So if you have a problem with sharing, don't.
Sharing is caring, or also like detrimental to your mental health. One of the two, or both. But yeah, so in this section, this gets crazy.
It goes off the rails. It's
like
neat.
like very quickly. So basically, he is in. I don't know which part we want to really work on. There's a tan gun as part of this. There's a lot of all the different pieces start to come together here, and there's a couple highlights to it. But the main thrust towards the end is that at Gloat, he is fucked up in answering the questions from that very first dinner party where Dr. Ubu, which we find out is not a real human being, but an AI sort of boss. And you constantly get like on your device these quizzes or like surveys that you have to do to help refine Gloat stuff. And when he was at the party and he was drunk and he did the game where they roll the dice and admitted a secret, he was
feeling just a little nationalistic.
Just a tad. Just a tad.
Those answers are so funny. Please don't be D. Oh no. Please don't be D. Yeah, it's D. Oh no.
It goes through a series of like, complete this sentence. Koreans are A, hardworking, B, respectful of their elders, C, a homogenous people, D, superior to all Asians. And he chooses D, of which in all these setups are like 3 right answers and 1 that's wrong. And he chooses the wrong one, D, every single time. And every one of them is like, Koreans are the best. Koreans are better than all other cultures.
Everything else is inferior.
This one is absolutely my favorite because this is almost identical to questions that we have on our stupid trainings that we have to do here. Like they're not stupid, but sexual harassment training and awareness training that we have to do on the computer. The setup for them is stupid, but the point fine. But these are the sort of questions that we get. Like if someone brings up an issue involving race, I will A, say, that's one opinion. B, say, I found that people are all the same at heart. C, contact a manager. Or D, assert that Asians are the superior race.
D. Let's go D. Oh, boy.
100%.
I'm going to have to do some sensitivity training at Gloat here. Oh, boy.
My goal with our questions is always choose C. Always choose the manager. I always want to talk to the manager. Always bump it up the line. Never do anything. Just bump it up. send it back.
That's how you get things solved. Make it your superior's problem.
If they read my answers through one of these Gloat machines, they just be like, this guy is a narc. But in addition, he goes to the chess match of his daughter. She's quit the chess game to join the Hegemon Club because she's found the tan gun. She's created the tan gun. He has the tan gun. And in this like little meeting with Dr. Ubu, who transforms into who does she transform into? Daisy, right? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, Daisy. So there's a figure on a screen. He gets led. I'm kind of doing a terrible job of recapping this, but basically at this point, Soon has like a few moments with Loa. He talks to his wife, who it turns out is Monk's daughter. She finds out through one of those 23andMe's. So one of the threads that's been dangling for a long time is that Monk had that affair with whatever her name was, that was at the gaming company where they were making the 2333 game. he tells Soon, well, I got her pregnant, and we see like their one night stand. And he says, and she was pregnant. You know, you could be my kid because you're about the same age. Turns out that Soon's wife is his kid. So, you know, extraordinary coincidence. But she finds out through the like one of those 23andMe things that identifies that. And turns out then that her sister is Grina Yu Yang, who had combined her last names into one, who is the model from our earlier section that the guy said, oh, she grew up in Amsterdam or whatever, but that wasn't quite true. That turns out to be a relative too. So we're getting all like the pieces put together. And I'll pause here because as I was reading it, especially this section and then a little bit into the Dream 5, started to have a vision of how this book is sort of constructed, where like bear with me, this is like a very like high on sort of visual imagery, but the way that I see it is that first chapter where everyone's at the dinner table, everyone is sort of connected through Soon. He's somehow like around all of them. They're all connected, but they're all their individual points. And as the narrative progresses, these points sort of like come through their back history, their past history, as if they're being pulled on a string or as like creating a net. And at this point, everything's netted together. All of those loose threads that were out there at the beginning that just seemed like happenstance, a name here, a name there, this little story, that little story, they've all like collided into one sort of knot, one sort of point, as if it were like a net catching a fish. Or I vision a net catching a fish. I don't fish or understand nets or knots, but I see it as like that sort of like momentum towards this like point at the end where all of these things that were stray and had like connections to one another have now been pulled tight into like one sort of not meta narrative, but one little jumble.
So it's all coalesced. What do you think is the net? What is the thing that's bringing them all together? You think it's Echo? Echo's
or
book?
Korea.
Or what?
Korea.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, like Echo's
or the KPG stuff. Yeah. And that's where I think it becomes that goes back to that flip-flop postmodern Pynchon question. Like, are they all brought together coincidentally, intentionally? Was there a plot for this? Is it just happenstance? And we sort of get some, I mean, it kind of can go both ways still, but there is the idea that when Dr. Ubu, his AI manager, that is like, you fucked up all these questions, then it transforms into a live video of Claire, the translator of Echo's book, who was at that dinner party, who gave Soon this dream manuscript, supposedly Echo's manuscript. She appears and is like, you've been chosen essentially to finish this. Your job is to finish Dream 5. Echo couldn't do it. You then also like your secret thing that happened at the party that was like one of the bits that's been hanging out there unresolved was that when they played the dice game, everyone had to do something crazy like dance to no music, drink things, whatever. And Soon rolls it and it says that he has to tell a secret and he can't remember what it is. He has like a weird feeling about it, but he doesn't know. And it turns out that his secret was that he told Echo that he would kill him. And this was like a positive answer because in some sense, finishing his book is essentially, I don't know, killing him. He was happy about it. He wanted it to happen, which does then refer back in a like loose way to the tan gun, which is the key to Hegemon, which is based on 2333 of creating the tan gun that can liberate X peoples, similar to Korea being liberated from Japan and becoming either one country again or a much larger influence. Not to jump too far ahead, but there is in the KPG section a reference to how one of the characters that works with Reverend Moon, who becomes the head of the Moonies, they're at a KPG meeting and it's clear that they want to become more violent and more like active. And this guy is like, yeah, they don't think that Korea is just Korea. Korea is also part of Manchuria. Korea should be expanded. And they are on that sort of realm. So a lot of that ties together. And I think like the thread is both that there's the connections as a whole, but also that if there's anything kind of pulling them together, it's this idea of Korea being like centrally important, its independence, and it has these threads that are everywhere that you don't always pick up on or notice. And I wonder how much of that is a reflection upon like racial politics in America and in the way that we treat different cultures. Like when we talk about the forgotten war, we talk about like, and we've talked about how in high school we never talked about the Korean War, all the stuff that's sort of like ignored up until BTS. Now Korea is like the hottest thing in the world, but like there is that sort of like overlooking of things and not seeing this not nefarious, but like widespread net of connections that are all geared towards the liberation of Korea or its reunification or its like prominent position within like opposition within the global politics of the world.
Yeah, I see too, the trajectory going with obviously like soon realizing like he's an extension of the KPG. Like he's a part of it. He doesn't know it yet, but like I am the KPG. Like just the way like there's all these like weird factions that you wouldn't think are part of it, but how inclusive Echo is with people being part of this movement. And the other part too with that I think might be kind of interesting is this idea of him not even knowing that he said he's going to kill Echo. And we've seen this repetition of like assassins that just happen to be assassins. Like it just happened, like the gun went off. But there's like all these forces, there's all these like invisible lines that are like pulling you towards something. Like it's destiny, like it's inevitable in some ways.
And frequently there's the people who are assassinated who are essentially like calling for their own assassination.
Yeah.
Sending out the message, the telegram that leads to him being shot. All of those things like that sort of double part of it. It's not just that they're going to be assassinated, but they almost like desire it. And that's where like she says, well, Echo was happy when you said that. Rather than, being disturbed if someone at a dinner party is like, I'm going to kill you.
I think if there's one thing I can take from this that I think is absolutely clear, and it's probably historically relevant, is that Punch murdered Tim Horton somehow.
Oh, straight up, Punch murdered Tim Horton.
that was not an accident. That was a car intentional.
It was definitely intentional.
And Punch has something to do with it. I'm not sure how or what, or how drunk I was when I read that part, but. Thematically, it fits with the Korean assassinations somehow.
Tim Horton needed to be assassinated for the liberation of Korean life. Is there anything else? This part is setting up like our final long section of the final dream. I don't know if there's anything else from this first part about Soon that's worth bringing up or that you wanted to bring up.
I think it's important to bring up, had you had a Ford Sabre, you still would have been alive. I'm just saying.
Fair.
Don't buy Italian cars for the snow.
Exactly. There's one other thing that I think is fun within there is that when he comes in, they won't let him in because he's answered these ways. They keep saying that he's an SA, and that refers to a sleeper awakes. And the sleeper awakes is like someone who they had coined the phrase early on of someone who just like walk away and have no connection to the internet, to like any of the stuff. Just like there's someone who's going to awake because the internet does control. Like they imply there that the internet is your dreaming state in some sense, like you would awake from being asleep from this. But if you remember way back, there's the statement that dreams are everything that's not on the internet. So that sort of circular logic is there. And there's one other thing that related to the structure and the pulling that I want to point out is that I know for a fact that Ed is obsessed with Ouroboros, like the snake eating its tail situation. And this book up through this point even is leading in that direction, where that first meeting sort of does like eating the end of this book in some sense. And if you go back to read the beginning chapter now, after finishing it and knowing who all these people are, like that Mercy Pang is there, who's the granddaughter of Parker Jotter, that Monk is his wife's father, that Claire is the one in charge of this part, that like all those people have now like a whole new backstory that we didn't know, and that going back to reread it with that in mind alters the way that you approach that whole party scene. Even so far as like on page I don't know where it is here, but he refers to being a mirror or seeing himself in a mirror, which again is what, oh, here it is. It's on 394. And it says, I realized in my horror, I was mirrored by the screen in the exact same pose, hand clamped to chest. That's that same scene as when he's outside of the restaurant with Admiral Yi, the Admiral Yi restaurant, and sees the thing and sees that as his own, as a mirror. So we're back into that sort of echo mirroring bit that runs, motifs that run throughout this book, and do also structure that idea of like the line being pulled and these pieces all kind of coming together.
Yep.
I think that there's a lot, and this was true of Personal Days, Ed's first book too, is that there's a lot of pieces that get set up that the ending, like quarter, less than quarter, eighth, whatever it might be, just like suck together. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, all this stuff that like was there now clicks into a new format. It's almost like reading a Nabokov novel where there's like some like final switch of perspective, or switch. It's not exactly that, but there's like some sort of switch that like gets clicked where all of a sudden everything takes on a different meaning and has like a different way of being approached, and that it's all been plotted, it's all been intricately laid out there, but not necessarily like attention seeking for its own sake.
Yeah, it's this one was a wild ride. It has me really excited to hit the home stretch, see how the dream ends.
Absolutely, same here, because I think it's super fun that like, I mean, okay, so the one last thing before we go into the parts of the dream that are super fun is that she's like, what are you supposed to do? Where is it? And she's like, you have to finish this. And he's like, but I don't write anymore. And she's like, you do now, and you have like 24 hours to do it. And there is some part of it written. And she says, okay, so what she says is it's too complicated to get into. Everything will be revealed once you start Dream 5. You have 24 hours to finish. I blinked. That's impossible. It's nearly done. You can read it in 2 hours max. The image flickered. Then we just need you to fill in some blanks. No big deal. Just put in things only you would know, which I think sets up a potential game with this of which sections or which items within the dream would be ones that Soon would only know, or that would be the part that he's adding to the dream. And she follows it up with, I just lost it. She follows it up with being like, well, we need a final line. Most of all, it needs a last line. So much hinges on the end, Echo always said. And they set up this room for him. Everything's taken like a sci-fi twist, I think. I mean, even though it's always been there, like with the gloat and the technology, and he works there and all that stuff. But like this room, this corridor, this room, this way that Dr. Ubu's an AI, the sort of like situation and setup of it is like very sci-fi like, very Philip K. Dick like. Everything that you thought you knew is different. The world you believed in isn't the world that is. All that kind of fun stuff. And Philip K. Dick obviously is littered throughout here.
Yeah, there's also I like the idea of like losing your personal freedom. There's like everything's kind of closing in, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And then once you're finally confined to where like push a button and we'll give you some food, here's some oxygen and water for you, then you can be creative. Once the individual has been completely boxed into like it's so oppressive at that point that now there's room for it to expand.
Yeah.
Which is like thematic of a lot of those, you know, dystopian sci-fi types of work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tie it back into Katie's retreat. Go to Ireland, cut off from the world, confined to a house, tied in. One last plug. That's my last plug, but we'll have the link in the show notes for anyone who's interested. Anyone who's a translator and wants to escape and do some yoga, some Pilates, some workshopping, and find your creative juice. Which has
open up some chakras and
chakra opening, man. Gotta get that chakra open for sure. Okay, so the Dream 5 is 1919 to the present. And there's a few different like threads that run throughout here. We get back to like some of it's just like the detail. Yeah.
Real quick, the photograph that we have on Dream 5 is the city of Buffalo, and then it has like concentric circles. Is that supposed to be part of the hoax of the nuclear bomb?
That's what I was going to say. That's what I assume. But
it kind of feels like a radiation map or a blast radius or something.
You know, I want to point out one thing that I noticed last night, which also might just be like, it might be a mistake. It might be just doesn't matter, whatever it might be. But I flipped up into the back for the photo credits because the picture that's on page 448, I was like, I think doesn't this picture exist earlier in the book? I couldn't remember. Like, I feel like it does, but I couldn't. It's flipping through. I didn't see it, and so I went to the back to look for. Like, I knew there was a list of like credits for all the photographs, but there kind of are and there kind of aren't. Like, there's only like a certain number of them, and this one's not on there.
It's not on there. Yeah.
No, but 403, which
one
is
of the hoax hockey player.
Yeah. Yes, the hoax hockey player. But then the one that you referenced, 403, that is courtesy of the Buffalo News. So I assume that is part of that hoax one too. But not all the pictures that are in here seem to be listed back here. At least not the 448 one. Although, yeah. So I assume that is like the thing. I mean, we can jump to that part if you want. So one of the lines that's very fun, because we've had the Sabres in here forever, is kind of the history of the early Buffalo Sabres when they were created, became a franchise. North reference to the North and South owners. They, they've got some young guys from France, a lot of French players, which is interesting. They are pretty good.
Are they French? Are they just French Canadian?
French Canadian, I believe. They call them the French Connection, right? Yeah,
because French people can't play hockey. We all know that, right? I mean, come on.
They're too busy baguetting each other. They just play with like chunks of brie and like a long baguette and just like slap that brie around. They're like
Canadians. It's like Canadians playing. Yeah, it's like Canadians playing basketball. Like, what? Wiggins is your best player ever? Really? That's the best you're going to give us?
This is the first time in the history of our friendship where I can definitively say I think the Timberwolves are better than the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I think that checks out.
With the connecting thread of Andrew Wiggins ruining the Timberwolves for several years and now contributing nothing.
Hey, we got us a championship, all right?
That's true. He was, for sure. But so they signed Tim Horton, which we were talking about earlier, who is a real hockey player for anyone who's not aware of the hockey history. Also a businessman who set up these cheap, shitty donut and sandwich shop, or not sandwiches, even just like donut croissant coffee places with bad coffee and little donut holes that I find disgusting. And I don't like Tim Hortons. And I'm pretty sure that at this moment in time, like if anyone hears that in the greater Rochester area, they're probably pissed, but such as life.
I don't know. I'd put them way below like Dunkin Donuts. And I don't even like Dunkin Donuts.
Dunkin Donuts.
Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not a huge donut person. I like coffee, but I think they're both pretty awful. But they're really popular.
Super popular and awful.
Kind of like the Kardashians, I guess. I don't know. Just somehow they're around and people are into it. It's just
Kardashians are the Tim Hortons of influencers. That would be amazing. I mean, you can only like Dunkin' Donuts if you're from Boston.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I've done a presentation in Boston, I expect someone to try and bring up Dunkin' Donuts.
But before that is all of these kind of like TV, film, and radio stars that are primarily American.
Right.
For this part of the dream.
Let me just close the loop on the Sabres thing. So the last Sabres is that they play out. They get to the Stanley Cup. They do not win. They've never won. During the NHL draft in 73-74, they decided to like play a joke and play a prank. And the 11th round, the 130 something pick, they pick Taro Tsujimoto, whose name has shown up like 3 times earlier than this. And it is supposed to be like the John Smith of Japan. Like the story in here is they calls like a florist that they're connected to. And they're like, what's the most common name? She's like, Taro Tsujimoto. And they're like, okay, that's what we're going to go with. And it's shown up as like one of the people in the KPG. When Japan controls Korea, they have to have a Japanese name, and his name is Taro Tsujimoto. I'm not going to say it right ever again. And it comes up like 1 or 2 other times. So that name is run throughout and then becomes like a interesting figure here as the mirror of like not existing, but yet they have a locker for him. He's reported in the news, much like the atomic bomb hitting Buffalo was reported in the news. So therefore there's some quasi validity to it. There's an image that one that we're referencing on 448 of what he looks like there. And they refer to him as playing in the Japanese league for the, what is it? The Tokyo Katanas, which would be like
Katanas.
Saber. And like nobody, I guess like some people are in on the joke, like the players in the front office, but seemingly like not everyone else was, and treated it like, who's this mysterious Japanese baseball player or hockey player?
What a strange hoax.
I love it.
I mean, it reminds me of like you made me watch that the baseball guy that was doing all these like weird
wreck rhymes with wreck.
Yeah, exactly. Doing all these like disco night or lockdown night. No one's allowed to show up at the stadium, but they still have all the vendors there. Like it's like one of those like small market. Like, can we just get some give us some shine, some attention, please? Anything, we'll take. The Katanas. Yeah, we drafted this guy. Who is this guy? He's a ghost. He doesn't exist. Like, yeah, like it just seems like such a small market prank.
I love it.
It also made me think of have you seen the movie Samurai Cop?
Oh no, I have not.
It's one of those like worst movies ever. It's like really bad. To the point where like half of the movie the protagonist is wearing a woman's wig because he cut his hair and they had to do some reshooting. So they just gave him a woman's wig that looks really awful. But if you watch the trailer on YouTube, he's like, they call him Samurai Cop. He's fluent in Japanese. And then it cuts to him going, what does katana mean? It means sword in Japanese. Like that's his, he's fluent in Japanese. Kitana? It means sword in Japanese. It's like,
oh my god.
But yeah,
not to get on this rabbit hole. Not to go too far off rails, but I think we've talked about RoboCop before on this season, if not in previous seasons. Have you seen the making of documentary?
For which RoboCop? The Paul Verhoeven one?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I have not seen the making of documentary.
It's called like Robo Doc, and it's like they talk. Okay. It's like 4 hours long. I think it's multiple part, like maybe series, not just a movie. But it's they talk to everyone, and apparently everyone dished all sorts of crazy shit. Like just that it was the craziest movie to work on, including that whoever the star is that plays RoboCop would only refer
Peter
to
Weller.
Peter Weller would only refer to himself as Robo for almost the whole time. So at one point when he gets involved with this guy who has Oreos, that's one of the film people is eating Oreos. He's like, give me an Oreo. Robo wants an Oreo. And he's like, no, man, you were shooting this scene. You're going to get shit all over yourself. He's like, Robo wants Oreo. Robo wants Oreo.
What in the world?
And you're a big RoboCop fan. You must love this documentary.
Oh, I'll have to see it. Yeah, no, I recommend the movie to everyone.
It's fantastic. So we have all the American, you say all the American actors, including Ronald Reagan. We get like a tie-in to Parker Jodder's wife when she was watching the 2 shows in which the 2 same characters appeared in the 2 different weeks, and she starts to get like her grasp of reality starts to shift a little bit and get a little hazy because she sees them in this other context. Both of them show up in here, and one of them is James Dean. The other is, what is her name? Peggy. And so we get that, or is it Pam, I think.
Pam, and then there's and then the actress Betsy. I ended up watching a bunch of her episodes of I've Got a Secret.
Really?
Yeah.
So Yeah, so I've got a secret again, referring back to the game that he plays at the bar where he has to tell a secret. I've got a secret, famous show in which the panelists have to have a secret and the host has to guess what it is. That's right?
Yep.
The player. And Ronald Reagan's on it a couple times and comes up with some crazy ass shit.
Well, it's interesting too. Like, I love the tie-in with Ronald Reagan on "I've Got a Secret" because, like, he became kind of it was Betsy Palmer, but he became kind of like this key figure in hunting out, communist actors. Like, he was like the narc for that, trying to uncover secrets.
Yeah, she mentions he tries to seduce Betsy Palmer several times, and she's like very cautious and says on page 427, she hears that Reagan's new thing is ratting out stars who look even the least bit pink. So she's very, very wary of him, whereas he's like, I fucks her the whole time that they're filming this.
All right, well, let me know if you hear this. I'll play you a quick clip so you can hear the audio, hopefully, of Betsy Palmer. She's really good with double entendres, though. It's pretty saucy for the 1900s, 1950s or 60s. What's funny though is when it starts, like, it's "I've Got a Secret" presented by Winston Cigarettes. It's good and it tastes like it should, or something. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But
it's toasted.
The panel, the clue concerns Dick's preparation for this tough examination and the results it brought. We'll start the questioning with Betsy Palmer.
Dick, did it have anything to do with electronics? The preparation?
Not directly.
The secret did not.
The secret didn't.
You mean you were going to take an exam that had to do with electronics and it had nothing to do with, the preparation had nothing to do with it?
Well, no, the secret has nothing to do with the electronics.
Oh. Well, was this something that you, I see. You did this to yourself?
Yes.
This was a physical thing that you did to yourself?
Yes.
Did you do it in a certain area of your body more than another area?
Yeah, no, she's real actor, obviously, and then like a vixen, so it makes sense why creepy Ronald Reagan's going to be creepy with her. But she has a really great sense of humor, like whip smart, funny, really knows how to work the crowd and everything. It's fun watching the old shows. But yeah, she was saucy.
Send me that link and I'll drop it in that point.
Okay.
Yeah. That's easy to do. So yes, that part's great. There's also within this section we get
the one with that one too, because it talks about General Electric, and that's an episode where she's asking about electricity and stuff in it. So I'm wondering if that's one that maybe Ed had seen or knows about. But I think I might have found the one that's connected to this. But who knows?
Really?
I'll send the link to you though. Yeah, maybe.
Perfect. That'd be fascinating. I know that he watched a lot of shows in doing this, including I think what's going to come up is one in which James Dean and Ronald Reagan were in it together. I think that's right. It's Reagan and someone, but I think that'll come up later. But one of the other, so there's the actor part, which is interesting, and connects some of those, goes back to Parker Jotter's wife. And then we have the whole part about Reverend Moon and the Moonies, in which that also ties into Parker Jotter's wife, in which the Moonies are trying to like they're the real church. They're, Jesus talks to whatever his real name is, Moon Young Myung. When he's in prison, Jesus appears, saves him. Jesus talks to him all the time. He's supposed to create this church. He goes to America, but what he does is have people essentially act as influencers. Like they put statements in the paper that are just like, do you feel sad? Call this number. And they're trying to recruit people into this church, and they are the divine precepts, which is what she was involved with way back when, turns out to be the Moonies. And he's the one who unveils another possible interpretation of 2333, which is that belief that's when Korea became a country. So they begin their calendar at 2333 go forward from there. So he says, which means I was born. So it says, the KPG acknowledges the legendary founding of Korea as occurring in 2333 BC. That was when Daegun was born, the child of a she-bear and a deity who had come from the sky. Daegun civilized the people and became their king. Moon is Christian, but he knows this fairy tale from that book of lore, the Samguk Yusa. And then he says, which means I was born in 4,253, not 1920. And that everything then from that point on, when it refers to a year, is counted as both our calendar, so in 1954, and then parentheses 4,287, which would be the Korean year. But the fact that this founded in 2333 BC adds yet another layer to what that part means. The birth date of his Parker Jotter's wife and the birth date of Korea. More nodding, more pulling on those threads.
Yep.
The Reverend Moon stuff is fun. I mean, the Moonies are fun. I love that kind of shit, though. Like, I'm a sucker for that. Like, Jesus has stopped following him for rides. Jesus insists that Moon is the second coming, the new Messiah. He says, why do you think I saved you from the prison in Hungnam? Blah, blah, blah. There's a great part where they're talking about, where is it here? But they're talking about, like, trying to get people on board with the Moonies. And they're like, yeah, they're a little bit cautious. Here it is. It's on page 439, where they're like, the DPs believe the world will end in 1967, which is her belief, which is 4,300. Clock is ticking. General public is indifferent, however, as the strict Miss Lee and her crew try every mode of outreach, from enigmatic one-line newspaper ads, quote, for the key to perfection, call AN 51926, to infiltration of more traditional Bible study groups. Even as the DPs obsess over the last days, they bungle their mission. They are wary of revealing too soon that the new Messiah will be a middle-aged Oriental mystic with minimal English. Potential followers must undergo arduous spiritual grooming before receiving this knowledge. But the DPs are running out of time. The year 4300 is nearly at hand, which has all those like markings of like a great cult of like the Scientology of the like,
It's
you have to be
very
groomed
culty.
or you can know. And the way that that's phrased, the new Messiah will be a middle-aged Oriental mystic with minimal English is beautiful. That's just a beautiful line. Love it. Philip Roth is in here.
And Dick. We get some Dick. We get some Roth. Yeah.
I do love that it says the divine precepts are established in Bay City. I was born in Bay City, Michigan, which this doesn't
there you go.
necessarily refer to that one, but they were in Bay City. I'll take it. Take it.
Yeah, but I think it's all lined up to hit the home stretch here.
Oh yeah, everything's here, and every page I have like underlines and references back to like, oh, here's this going back to here, all those like little pieces, all those little connections, and that's where like as a craft standpoint for him doing this, I know that like it took him years to write and he went through it, but like, fuck, are there a lot of little details strewn throughout that do come up later? So many.
Yeah, how to map them and keep them straight is something really interesting. I'd be curious about the craft of it, how he kept it all straight.
When he was here, I don't think it was part of his presentation or speech. I think it was like in a separate conversation, but he said like he had gone back to read part of it at maybe one of his first readings, and he's like, oh my God, I forgot that was planted here. That comes up later. He's like, I don't even remember doing that. So I can see that being a sort of side effect of trying to write a book like this.
Yeah, like I'm trying to remember when this section introduces the baby boy Jason, named after the doctor that died. Like trying to figure out what is Jason going to be? What's his importance to the right?
Well, and then there's the scene with the camp counselor who's getting fingered by the other camp counselor, and there's the kid who wasn't part of the camp that drowns in the lake. Isn't that Friday the 13th?
Jason Voorhees, right?
Voorhees. And I know a secret about that I think will come up in the next section. If not, I'll tell it at the end. But I'm pretty sure that whole paragraph is a reference to, it's right here, 434. Then it happens. A boy drowns in Crystal Lake. Janet feels awful. They shouldn't have been left unattended. How did he get out to the water by himself? Makes no sense. Boy wasn't even a camper. Not their responsibility. His mother, the camp cook, should have kept an eye. Mad with grief, she leaves early. Blah, 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 blah. That, I believe, it's been God knows how many years, but isn't that is the setup for the first Friday the 13th movie?
That's the plot of Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So there we go. That's in there.
And if we go back to where the plaque on the wall is, it's Friday the 13th when he's born.
Oh, right.
Let's see, it's somewhere around 418, somewhere in there, I think. But
yeah, it's in the big pages. But yeah, right here somewhere. I don't know, but yeah,
I don't know. But it's basically like, at last the baby arrives. For luck, she names him after the man on the plaque. At last, the nurse assumes the spelling is off and appears as plain old Jason on the certificate.
Yep. 13 hours
later. Severe physical and mental defects. But what can she do?
Very interesting. So, should probably wrap this up here, unless there's anything else you wanted to point out specifically.
No, nothing. I'm just curious to get to the end and make some sense of it together.
I am very curious. I think one thing that I was going to save for next week, because it comes up more in the next week, in the final episode, is Dick D, the book that Cha Hak-young, whose American name is Teresa, writes, called Dick D. This is like a famous translated book that came out in translation not too many years ago. I think it was, well, maybe it was in the 80s, but it is available and it sounds really interesting, like really curious. There's even a quote that I found that one of Delkey's authors, Carol Maso, blurbed this book or wrote. I mean, this is maybe one of the more insane Wikipedia rabbit hole lines that I've found. So when Dick D was originally published in 1982, it received average reviews. Contemporary reviews for Dick D have been rather positive, with Carol Maso quoted in Spin magazine commenting, "Dick D enlarges the notion of what a book is, because it's ephemeral, fragile, fierce, and indelible, because it is subversive, because it yearns and is luminous." Dick D is now a common part of the curriculum in feminist or Asian American studies. But Carol Maso, this like Delkey, very like specific sort of Delkey author, is in Spin magazine talking about like a quasi-experimental translated Korean book. The fuck is happening?
It's so random.
So random. It's like something that if he put that in this book, I'd be like, it ain't real. That ain't real at all. It's a lie. But alas.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite
find
line?
my signed copy of The Art Lover, so I can go find that.
Exactly.
I'm going to go on page 433. It's a quick paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Janet digs the cosmic puppets. The writer's name is hilariously fake, Philip K. Dick. The cover screams science fiction, but she's not sure where the science comes in. A man visits his hometown only to find out that everything is slightly off, different than he remembers. He finds an old newspaper article saying he died as a kid.
I'll build on that. The line I have is sort of related to that. It's about the cosmic puppets, in which people are hidden. People live in bunkers deep underground as their robot armies battle on the surface. Then someone discovers that the robots actually stopped fighting years ago. The atmosphere is safe for humans. The robots just never bothered to tell them. Which I think is like the perfect, that's a Philip K. Dick story in a nutshell. It's a perfect way that it wraps up, that his stories work. And I don't know if that works as like a metaphor for this book, but of like, there's a war going on, but nobody told them that it's safe for humans and it's not happening.
Well, it's kind of the opposite. Everybody said it's over, but it never ended.
It never ended. Everything's like the yin and yang of it and the back and forth.
The mirror opposite. Yeah. Ooh.
So
what's the mirror opposite of a terrible opening? Can we do that for our? How about a bad ending?
I have clearly I have at least 7 more possibilities that are written down here. Some less likely to be allowed on air than others, but they're there. They're there. I think I know how I'll wrap this one up. But yeah. So, any final words about this section? Next week we finish it.
No, let's get to the end. I'm ready.
Let's do this. So, in the meantime, rate and review. Podcast is available everywhere you want. Anywhere that you give us a review or a rating will really help. Tell your friends, tune in, and we'll be back next week with the finale and talk a little bit maybe about the next book that we'll be doing. So till then, Tim Hortons sucks.
I drink so much coffee, I might bust a hazelnut. And I know they got the caramel, that French vanilla. They keep all them exotic flavors down in the cellar. I'm rolling through the drive-thru. What should I tell her? You pretty and your eyes blue. Skin vanilla. I told her put my number down in her cellar. She said word to everything. She go text me. She gave me my